Ladies and gentlemen, the Tuesday night tailgate is finally upon us. My friend, not Tim King, King Tim, is joining me today on the inaugural Tuesday night tailgate, where this is the tailgate after the tailgate. We are just going to have a ton of fun. This is what the show is all about: NFL, college, prospects, draft. We're getting into it today, and we're coming in hot right away. Episode 1, NFL predictions for the 2023-24 season. Before we do that, just make sure you guys like and subscribe to the Bloodline Entertainment Network. These guys have done an amazing job for me up until this point. I mean, they literally took everything essentially out of my hands. They've made it so easy just for me to come in here. I'm a schmuck. I just come in here and I'm just spewing BS to you guys, and you guys are willing to listen. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank these guys enough. I can't thank Tim enough. King Tim, how are you, my brother?
Yo, brother, I am doing great, Peter. This has been such a long time coming, man.
It has.
I am so excited for you to be right here on the Bloodline Entertainment Network. I just want to give my boys Nick and Dylan all the credit in the world. Great video, great overlay, great
Dude,
logo.
It was sick.
I can't take the credit. That's why I didn't do any of it, so I can't take the credit.
Oh, I wanted to make sure before I even said anything that I did none of that, because my creativity is usually at a 0. The voice, talking, all that kind of stuff is always at 100. Creativity is always at a 0. Like I told you before, Tim, I shut my brain off and my mouth just starts spewing words. That's how it usually works. But those guys are incredible. I mean, this layover is amazing. The overlay, whatever. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. The overlay is amazing. These guys have just done an incredible job. I can't thank them enough. But I think right away, coming in hot, it's time to talk business. The NFL season is Tuesday night. So what is it? I can do math. 9 days away.
Yep. 9 days.
9 days away.
9 days away.
9 days away from Kansas City versus Detroit. I can't wait. I feel like as I've been waiting for the game, the inaugural game of the season, I feel like it's getting further and further away from me. I feel like every time I look, I'm like, Jesus, it's still like 10 days away, 9 days away. Like usually it comes upon me like that. This time they're making me sit on it a little bit. I'm waiting a little bit for this.
Oh man, with football, it's weird. Right when the first preseason game hits, it's like, oh my God, football's here. Let's go. We're ramped up. We're ready to go. And then it's that little lull in between the preseason games. And then, we get into it. But right now it does feel like we're just chugging along slowly. Yeah, I don't know about you. I'm a fantasy football junkie, though. So I've been in all these drafts, dynasty drafts, redrafts, auction drafts. So now I'm just ready for football. I'm ready for fantasy football.
Yeah.
You know what I'm ready for Chicago Bears football, baby.
Well, Tim, listen, we'll get into that eventually. This is what I love about having Tim, because we have discussions. There's never any disagreements per se. There might be a little bit of a disagreement on the inaugural episode of Tuesday Night Tailgate, though, but that remains to be seen. The way that I'm going to be doing this for my NFL predictions, I'm coming in hot. We're going to be going division by division. We're going to try. Listen, no one wants to sit here and listen. If you're a Browns fan, you don't want to listen about the Ravens for 25 minutes. We're going to go make our bullet points. That might get into a little bit of an elongated discussion, but at the end of the day, we're going to try and make these as fast as possible for each team to keep you guys engaged and to keep you guys wondering about what's going on. Where the burgers at? They're coming. They're coming. Don't worry. I'm going to do, you know what I'm going to do? Dylan, my man. Yo, you know what I'm going to do one of these days, Tim? I just thought of it. I'm going to do a live Tuesday night tailgate from my barbecue at my house.
Bro, there we go.
Where are the burgers at? They will be there. They will be there. I can't guarantee they're going to be cooked amazing, because if I'm going to be paying attention to this, I'm probably going to burn them all. But I mean, that's completely okay. It's the thought that counts.
Yes.
And speaking of thought, a lot of thoughts went into these predictions. And I think I'm going to start right away. I'm going to come in hot. And I think I'm going to start in the AFC West for us today. So the AFC West, pretty standard issue, I think, for me. I don't really think maybe the last place team is a little bit of a surprise, but even at the number one overall seed in the AFC, I do have the Kansas City Chiefs. I think right away, the Kansas City Chiefs don't give us a reason to believe they won't be as good as years prior. Because listen, we thought this last year, Tim, 2 years ago, we thought, what's wrong with this team? They're just not clicking at the right time. They're 6-4. They're this, they're that. They're not as good as the year before. But they always come around to surprise us. They always come around to close to the best record in the AFC. I have them at 13-4. The one question mark I do have, two question marks really. What's going to happen with Chris Jones? And how are the new bookend tackles going to play? Jawan Taylor has one good season under his belt in the NFL, and he got paid $20 million to be the new blindside blocker for the best quarterback in football. That's a lot of pressure. And then you have Donovan Smith, super solid veteran his entire career, getting a little bit older, showing his age last year. I'm a little worried about that. The interior of the offensive line is tremendous. Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, Joe Tooney, those guys, you'd never have to worry. That's a brick wall there. These tackles could be a little bit of an issue, but it's Andy Reid, it's Travis Kelce, and it's Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day.
Yeah, man, no doubt. It is. It's funny. Last year, I predicted that all four teams from the AFC West would make the playoffs. I had that much faith in this division, isn't it? I claim to know football. What a joke that was. I was right about the Chargers bounce back, so that was cool. This year, Chiefs are winning the division. I do have the Chargers as a wild card team. The Broncos do bounce back and get better. The problem is the AFC is so stacked.
Yeah, man.
I mean, so stacked. There's like 12 teams that viably can make the playoffs. Like 6 that are fighting for that last wild card spot, including the Broncos. They don't get it, though. And the Raiders are not anywhere near what I thought they possibly could be last year.
You really nailed it on the head. I have the same standings as you, actually, just to put the record in perspective. I do have the Chargers actually missing the playoffs. See, this is the problem, though. This is the problem, Tim, is that there are just too many good teams where you just went back in your chair and went, whoa. But then you look at all the playoff worthy teams and you go, well, some of these teams that are playoff worthy have to miss the playoffs. You can't have, 14 of 16 teams make the playoffs. It's unfortunate because that would be awesome. But then again, what are you playing the season for? But I do have the Broncos and the Chargers tied for second place in the division at 9-8. I agree with you. I think it's impossible with the offensive line adjustments that Denver has made with Sean Payton, with Russell Wilson. Listen, I'm not completely sold on Russ being washed. It's one bad year out of his entire career. New offense, he had to adjust to a lot of different things. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And with one of the greatest offensive minds in the game as his new head coach, I think we're going to see a bounce back. A lot of question marks in that front seven, though, for me, and it's just a stacked division, a stacked conference. Same deal with the Chargers. I don't love Brandon Staley, and I think his incompetence in some areas of coaching will lose them a couple of games that they probably should win throughout the year.
He's so bad.
It's
he
terrible.
is just
it's
so
terrible.
very bad. I don't know how he sells a job. Maybe Kellen Moore will save him, but he is just so very bad.
It's bad. And then speaking of bad, Tim, we come to the basement of the AFC West, and that's the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. 5-12, I have them. Honestly, it could be generous. There's a huge question mark at the quarterback position. Jimmy Garoppolo, he just knows how to win wherever he goes. But he's also had a Super Bowl caliber team everywhere he's been. This is not a Super Bowl caliber team. This defensive line, awesome. Except for trading Neil Farrell today. I wasn't really a big fan of that for the Raiders. I thought they should have kept him. He was super solid last year for them. Great defensive line. Got a really nice pieces. Tyree Wilson is going to be awesome for them. Max Crosby's one of the best defensive ends in the game. All that kind of good stuff. Other than that, secondary, we're looking at Nate Hobbs, Ja'Cory Bennett. Ja'Cory, you're relying on a 5th round rookie to play a massive impact in a division that has Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. The poor kid's going to get lit up. And offensively, the line, you never know what you're going to get from that offensive line. The weapons are good if Devontae stays. We have no idea what Devontae Adams is thinking right now. It's a mess. And I think that late in the season, the Raiders are going to be fighting for the first overall pick or close to it.
I agree with you. I thought last year they had new coach syndrome. I love new coach syndrome, like you saw with Brian Dable and the Giants last year. And I thought McDaniels was competent. I was wrong on many fronts. I agree. They'll be picking top 5 again. Jimmy G does not have San Francisco's offensive line, does not have their defense, maybe the offensive weapons, but
the weapons are nice. The weapons are definitely nice. That'll win them the 5 games.
Right.
I'm not relying on this defense. I'm not going to say, wow, that offensive line really, really dominated today and they won them the game. We're never going to say that about the Raiders, but those weapons, especially Josh Jacobs coming off of an incredible season. Now he's paid. Let's see what we get from Josh Jacobs this year as well. But it's just not I'll say this. If they were in the NFC, I could see them winning 7 or 8 games. AFC, I can't see it.
I agree. The NFC is just so bad, man. It is so very bad.
I would like to move to my guy Ben Holloway. What's up, dude?
Ben? What's up?
Good
tuning in, brother.
Ben, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. We're going over to the AFC North here. We're just going gauntlet by gauntlet. I don't know if you'll resonate with this, Tim, but I describe the AFC as a conference as a medieval gauntlet. It's just you're going up against horsemen after horsemen. I mean, you don't get a break at all. We're looking at a year where playing the New England Patriots in Foxborough could be a break for a team.
Yeah, I think there's 13 out of 16 legitimately good teams in the AFC. It's in comparison to 4 out of 16 teams in the other conference. It's wild.
You're 100%. You nailed it on the head. And at the top of the division in the AFC North, we got to go with Cincinnati. And the reason I think that they go, I have them at 12-5. I wanted them to go 14-3, 13-4. I feel like this Joe Burrow injury is going to hamper them at the beginning of the season a little bit. I don't think the offense is going to click the way that we think it's going to click right away. But then, of course, as everyone gets healthier, as the season progresses, this offensive line is also going to have to gel together again. Joe Burrow has another new offensive line essentially in front of him. But you have the big ticket offseason acquisition in Orlando Brown. That is huge. This is easily the best offensive line Joe Burrow has played in front of. And I'll give you a little sneak peek to my predictions, my award predictions. Joe Burrow, for me, wins the MVP this year. I think he gets it done. And I think this involves a Lombardi trophy. Let's save that for a different segment on a different day. But I think the Bengals have the most complete team they've had with Joe Burrow. And I think that should give us a reason to be more hopeful. This is a guy that's coming off of a Super Bowl appearance and an AFC Championship appearance in 2 full seasons as an NFL starter. His rookie season, he probably wasn't going to get there, but but I digress. Baltimore is 11-6 for me, making the wild card. Mm-hmm. Love what Baltimore has done. And this is a very polarizing opinion, especially for AFC buffs like myself. I'm a Jet fan, so, you got a lot of stake in the AFC. Either the Ravens fans, which is surprising because they're usually a group of hopeful fans. You either get, wow, we're really, really stoked for this year, or, oh my God, we are going to crap out this year. And I've never seen that kind of disparagement from the Ravens fan base. So it's really, really interesting. It's just because how good the AFC is. Like, it gives everyone anxiety. And
you think it's a Lamar thing, or they're all in on Lamar?
I think it's a defense thing. I think it's a defense thing because we finally have seen, Tim, the Ravens somewhat invest in Lamar Jackson, not only in the big contract, but we're talking about weapons for the first time. I mean, you're looking at a team last year, don't forget, that took the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati to the absolute limit with Tyler Huntley and Demarcus Robinson as their top options on offense. Well, besides for Mark Andrews, but you get what I'm saying. As a wide receiver, Demarcus Robinson was really the only healthy wide receiver. So if everyone stays healthy and you have Lamar throwing and running the football, Zay Flowers, who I think is in for a huge rookie season. Odell Beckham is probably going to, if he could stay healthy, he'll probably give you 800, 900 yards. Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, Mark Andrews. This is a loaded offense. Like we're looking at a team that, and it sucks because the last few years, this has been the argument. They just can't stay healthy. That's the problem. But it looks like if they could stay healthy, this might be one of the better Ravens teams that we've seen offensively. Defensively, it scares me. When you're signing Jadeveon Clowney this late in the offseason, it means that you have a little bit of a problem. Not only that, the secondary isn't what it was. Marlon Humphrey really, really masks a lot of those shortcomings that the Ravens secondary has. I'm looking for a big step up from Kyle Hamilton this year. And then Marcus Williams is going to be always good as he usually is. But I think big things for the Ravens this year. I really do.
I'm with you. Both teams are making the playoffs. I got the Bengals winning the division, the Ravens making the wild card. I do love the Browns and the Steelers, though. Like in my list of wild card potential teams, I have the Browns and the Steelers both listed as well. I think Deshaun Watson is going to have a big time bounce back here. Amari Cooper had a great year last year with Jacoby Brissett. I think they're going to carry over to Deshaun Watson. Plus, they brought in Elijah Moore from the Jets, your boy, right? Your boy. They brought him over, so you got some weapons around him. Defense should be solid. I don't think the Browns make the playoffs, though. They're my third team in that division, and the Steelers are the fourth team in the division.
Really?
Although I think they're going to be a much improved team. Solid defense, offensive line better. Najee Harris should be improved this year. Kenny Pickett coming into year 2 should be much improved, which means Deontay Johnson and George Pickens should see much better carryover into this year than they saw last year. But I still think they finished 4th in that division. It's a very tough division. As a matter of fact, that is the best division in football, the NFC North. Bengals, Ravens, Browns, Steelers. That's how it ends.
I'm going to have to agree with you on what you said about the teams. I just have them flipped. I have the Browns in last place, but only a game apart. The Steelers and the Browns a game apart. Super, like you said, super tough. And this is a whole division that regardless of how good or bad these teams are, they always play each other well. You're looking at like 3-3 for every single division record for each team every year because it's just how it goes. It's a super tough division. I agree. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers missed the playoffs, but with a huge look towards the future as one of the top teams in the AFC. They're just one draft and one offseason away, and hopefully a little bit of Kenny Pickett development for being a top contender in the AFC. I think they're going to be much improved. I agree with you for sure. I want to move over to my favorite division, and that's the AFC East. Of completely unbiased, has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a Jet fan, of course, but I don't have the Jets winning the division. And I think I have them tied for the division win, but I have them ultimately being the 5th seed in the AFC as a wild card contender. I think the Bills still get it done. I think they regress a little bit. I'm looking at 11-6 for the Bills. I think what was really worrisome last year was Josh Allen's stupid turnovers that he was making. Like I see this every game essentially from Patrick Mahomes, where Mahomes is winning 35-10 with 8 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and he throws a stupid interception. Okay. But that will have no change of the outcome of the game. Josh Allen was turning the ball over when it mattered most last year. Now, if he could clean that up, there's no reason to believe that the Bills aren't a Super Bowl contender, as they've been for the last couple of years. Because when Josh Allen's at his best, that defense isn't great, but they could definitely hold their own with Von Miller missing the first 4 games of the year, missing time last year. He's going to miss 4 games this year on the PUP list. Like, that's going to be a little bit of a blow to their pass rush. You're going to need Greg Rousseau to kind of step up really, really big. He's quietly had a nice career so far through a couple of years. I'm looking for a big step up for Rousseau. The secondary, Kaiir Elam in his 2nd year has to step up and play a bigger role. Trey White is going to be fully healthy for the entire year. Getting older in the safety department, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer are in their close to their mid-30s at this point. So you're really squeezing the last juices out of the orange with that, I would say. But I think the Bills and the Jets are tied for the division lead at 11-6. I think if the Jets will know how good the Jets are after the first 4 games of the season, because that is easily their toughest stretch of the year, where you're playing the Bills, then you're playing the Cowboys, then you're playing the Patriots, then you're playing the Chiefs in your first 4 games. If the Jets could escape 2-2, 3-1, Jets are in business. I think they really are. 2-2 would be chef's kiss for me, Tim. That would be beautiful. If you could come away with wins against New England and Dallas or Buffalo and Dallas, whatever it may be, I fully don't expect them to beat the Chiefs. That's just, I can never expect, from what I've seen when the Jets play the Chiefs, you can never expect them to win. It's like when the Jets play the Eagles. They've never actually beaten the Eagles ever. so
the two most skilled quarterbacks of all time, right?
Oh, God. But I think the only thing that'll hold this Jets team back from being a Super Bowl contender is their offensive line. I think if this offensive line cannot protect Rodgers, this is going to be a very, very grim year for us Jets fans. If they could do enough to where maybe midseason we're looking at a big-time trade, maybe like a San Francisco Trent Williams trade, something along those lines with the Jets. I'm thinking maybe someone like Tristan Wirfs, maybe, I don't know, maybe would be crazy, especially if they're trying to blow it up.
Man,
you never know.
That would be
crazy.
Something right there,
that
man.
would be crazy. I'm just saying, if they could hold it together long enough to where maybe the Jets are 7-3, 6-4, something that gives them real hope in the AFC, you got to pull that trigger. You got to make that trade. And then in the last wild card spot in the AFC, I have the Dolphins. I have them at 10-7. I think that the defense is going to hinder them for quite some time until Jalen Ramsey comes back. But I think that they'll be able to hold their own because of that offense. I mean, this defense could probably give up 30 points a game and still win most games because of that offense. If everyone stays healthy, that's just a three-headed monster there. You got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson. Tremendous speed, tremendous agility. They're just fantastic after the catch, at the line of scrimmage, downfield. All three of those guys are just really, really awesome. And I think the offense will power them to the point when Jalen Ramsey comes back that he'll give them the significant boost to make the wild card. And then in the basement, I have the New England Patriots at 6-11. I think this is the year. I've been saying this, Tim, I've been saying this for like 3 years now, where I'm like, this is the year that Bill Belichick and co just completely don't even come close to the playoffs. And I'm always wrong, but I'm going to remain hopeful that I think I'm right this year. I just think that everyone else is too overpowered. Their offense isn't going to score enough points for them to be competitive in most games.
No, and when you're looking at that division, you have 3 teams making the playoffs. So you arguably think that that's the best division in football and not the NFC or the AFC North, which I get from you putting 3 teams in there, which, that speaks for itself, which is totally fair because I have of my top 8 teams, the Jets and the Dolphins in there, but you only can make only 7 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I got the Chargers. I just don't think there's any way Justin Herbert's not leading that team to the playoffs. So it ultimately came down to the Dolphins and Lamar and the Ravens, as I said. So it ultimately came down to the Dolphins or the Jets for me. All right, took your Jets, Jets. I got them. I got them in.
Man. This is why I love you.
I think they the defense is there. You brought Aaron over. He seems to be revitalized, which is weird.
He does. It is true. That last ayahuasca trip really did it for him. So
it very well did. I love Robert Saleh, man. He's a heck of a coach, man. I love his adrenaline, his energy. It's contagious. So you bring that with an actual quarterback, because what do we always say? A team's a quarterback away. Well, last year that team was Denver. You're a quarterback away. Well, they had Nathaniel Hackett. Well, what's your common denominator?
Nathaniel Hackett.
The difference is he is an Aaron Rodgers guy, so he can hide behind Rodgers and help, actually. He's Aaron Rodgers' boy. So if anything, Nathaniel Hackett being there is just going to help Rodgers be better.
Absolutely.
And be more mended with the team. Robert Cobb and Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard and Nicole Hardman. And obviously, Garrett Wilson is him, right? He is him. Okay.
I haven't been able to say that about a Jets receiver in quite some time, but Garrett Wilson is him. Yes.
Yes. So when you get Wilson and Lazard and Hardman, I don't expect much out of Cobb, but him just being there.
Just him being there.
Just him being there with Rodgers is huge. The running game with Breece Hall and Delvin Cook. I mean, come on, man. And what did Rodgers do? What did Rodgers do in Green Bay when he was winning MVPs? He wasn't chucking downfield. He's dumping the backs, man.
Yeah.
Breece Hall could catch the ball. Delvin Cook could catch the ball. Jets are my wild card team. The AFC is
crazy,
disgusting. And there's legitimately 12, 13 teams that can make the playoffs.
That's a great segue, Tim. because then we come to the worst division in the AFC, and that's the South. And I mean, this is unprecedented territory where I really wish Ryan Tannehill wasn't the starting quarterback for Tennessee, because you would literally have like the 4 youngest quarterbacks in NFL history, like all just like in how old is Trevor Lawrence? Like 23, 24 years old. And then you have like 21-year-old Anthony Richardson, like 22-year-old CJ Stroud. You know what I mean? It's just like, and then we would have Will Levis, but Ryan Tannehill had to ruin that party for us. But easily for me, I think that this is the Jaguars division to lose. I have them at 10-7 as a floor.
Okay.
I think that this team is talented enough offensively and is getting there defensively to where we could see a 12-5 from the Jacksonville Jaguars, because of how bad the division is too. You could legitimately get 6 wins out of that division. And as long as you're playing 500 ball against everyone else, you have like a top 3 seed. So it's going to be awesome to see what Jacksonville does in the division. Those are always super tough games, regardless of what division you're playing in. You always just put a little bit more juice into those matchups when you're playing your division rival. In second place in the AFC South, I have the Tennessee Titans at 8-9. I don't think that we're going to see. It's so tough because this team is so boring. Like, they are just a boring team. Like, it's all Derrick Henry and then not much else. Adding DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is going to be big. I don't think it's going to be big enough. I just think this team is going to just sputter too much by quarterback play. Ryan Tannehill didn't look like himself last year. His numbers are better than how he played. You're looking at about 2,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a decent quarterback rating. He didn't play to those numbers. I'm sure you were surprised that I pulled those numbers out, that they were as good as they were.
I think that I think his career was over after that Bengals game. Blowing the game the way he did, I don't know that he could mentally come back from that. And I think that affected him last year.
Defensively, I think this is a team that we're going to see lose a lot of 20-17 games, because defensively, I think they have a very, very underrated unit. I think their secondary, their young secondary that they invested so much draft capital in, is finally going to pay off. I think Roger McCreary, I said it last year, was one of the best picks in the entire draft last year. Played the most defensive snaps of any player in football last year. 1,165 defensive snaps for a cornerback. Tim. Played 1,165 snaps. Unbelievable durability. I think he's going to be great. I think Caleb Farley, all those guys are going to be really, really good. I just, like I said, kind of the same deal with the New England Patriots, just on a more higher scale. I don't think they have the offensive firepower, even with DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry, to compete with a lot of these teams in the AFC. It's a tough schedule. And then, coming up on the rear, I have the Indianapolis Colts at 7-10. Very generous. A generous 7-10.
7-10.
7-10 generosity. And also, these were predictions made. I didn't adjust anything because of the whole Jonathan Taylor thing. At the time that I made the predictions, it was, he was still playing, all that kind of stuff. Oh, so Jonathan Taylor is on the PUP list and he's going to be missing 4 games. So
how disappointing to a lot of my fantasy teams.
It's so funny because you look at like any tweet about Jonathan Taylor and everything is just, my fantasy team is destroyed. It's like everything that no one cares that he's not playing football in the prime of his career. Everyone's like, great, what am I going to do now? Like
the Colts are holding him hostage during the just abysmal. I'll let you keep doing you.
Very weird. I don't understand. I talked to my boy J-Wack. You know J-Wack very well.
Yeah, of course.
He's a Colts fan, and we talked about it. And I was like, dude, why are they such a strange organization? He's like, I wish I could tell you. It is crazy. I have no idea what the heck they're doing, but
it's just gross what they're doing with him. They're basically just holding him hostage.
I don't get it. I do not understand, but very generous 7-10 defensively. I think that they're relying very heavily on rookies in the secondary. I think those guys are going to play up to expectations, and this team's success relies on Anthony Richardson. I think Richardson, 7-10 for me, is best case development. We're going to see a season with Anthony Richardson that's going to have a lot of, oh my God plays. And then a lot of, oh my God plays. You know what I mean? We're going to see a lot of that disparagement between what the hell was that and oh my God, I can't believe I just witnessed that on a football field. It's going to be like that. And I think as long as we see more of those oh my God plays, his development is I mean, he's not going to be it for another year or so as a pure passer. He's got one of the strongest arms I've ever seen in college and in the NFL, to be quite honest with you. He's just got to put it together. And the Colts have to invest in him and put more pieces around him. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Jelani Woods, very mid. And then coming up in the rear, I have the Houston Texans at an improved 6-11. And the 6 wins are coming basically off of DeMeco Ryans. I think DeMeco Ryans is the next great coach in the NFL. I really do believe that. He resonates well with the players. He's incredibly smart. I mean, to me, I'm a defensive guy. I think one of the toughest things to do in all of sports is to be a Mike linebacker in the NFL. I think that is one of the most difficult things to do. You're the quarterback of the defense. You have to know basically everything about what's going on. And DeMeco Ryans shows that in his defensive coordinator style. Now let's see how he transitions over to head coach. This is going to be another run for a 49ers defensive coach as a head coach now. You know, we saw Robert Saleh. Now it's going to be DeMeco Ryans. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think Stroud does fairly well. I kind of like what they're building there with the young players. This is a roster that has a lot of holes and a lot of Band-Aids and a lot of duct tape on it, where it's like, we're going to sign that veteran for 1 year to plug him in there. Then we'll worry about that hole later. That's what I'm getting from the Houston Texans for the last couple of years. But they're building up slowly with better young players. So it's only a matter of time before they start challenging the Jacksonville Jaguars for the division.
That was a great breakdown of this putrid division.
Thank you.
And yeah, your numbers are always fantastic. It is the Jaguars division, and the only team who can compete with them is the Titans. I'm not going to say I'm a Titans fan, but I love Mike Vrabel. I love what he does. I love everything about that team and how he goes about his business and executes. For years, I haven't understood how he gets this team to the playoffs, but he does. I got him as my eighth or ninth overall team in the AFC. But again, this is a team, if they were in the other conference, I would say that the Titans are going to go to the playoffs as a wild card team. The problem is they play in the AFC. They're not going to go to the playoffs. There's only one team coming out of this division. It is the Jaguars. I do think they have potential to go 12-5. Maybe get up to the 3 seed, likely be the 4 seed. But that AFC East is so good that if the Jaguars can get to 12-5, that I think they might be able to get up to that 3 seed. And is the North, the Bengals might finish 11-6, 12-5. So, I mean, Jaguars can get all the way up to the 2 seed at the end of the day. Who knows what happens with Chris Jones? Maybe the Chiefs lose 5 games. We could be looking at a Jaguars team that gets a bye when it's all said and done, okay?
That would be like the NFL never ceases to amaze us, and that would be like the one thing that's like, this is so NFL. Like they're so I call the NFL, I've said this for a lot of many years, the NFL is the perfect American soap opera. And it just, they never cease to amaze us with a twist or a turn. And it almost does seem scripted sometimes, but you know, I digress. Yeah. I want to move on now. I want to switch it up because we're talking about bad divisions. We got to talk about the worst division in football. We're going to talk about the NFC South now. It's funny how the two South divisions are just terrible, but
so bad.
At the top, I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to say that the old wily veterans of the New Orleans Saints get it done. I think that they made the necessary moves in the offseason to scrape together an 8-9 season and win the division. I absolutely think that 8 wins is enough to win this division. But with that being said, I have the Panthers and the Falcons right behind them at 7-10, purely primed to win the division as well. I think that if Atlanta just takes the ball out of Desmond Ritter's hands and puts it in Tyler Allgeier's, Bijan Robinson's, and Cordell Patterson's hands, we could be looking at like a 50 rush per game team making the playoffs. Like we could see Desmond Ridder throw the football 15 times in a game if we're lucky, and they could be a good football team. I really think that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, 7-10, I think is just going to be a lot of growing pains from Bryce Young. And then at the end of the year, I really think he's going to catch fire. I think this is going to be a team that's not great and kind of disappointing at the first half, but then we're going to see it click with Bryce Young, and we're going to see this offense click, and we're going to see them rattle off a few wins where you go, oh, this is why he was the number 1 overall pick. So a lot of room for those 3 teams, Tim, to win the division. I'm going to leave it open to interpretation. I think the Saints, boringly enough, I would love to see one of the other 2 teams win it. I think that the Saints eventually get it done. And then with the second worst record in all of football, I have the Buccaneers at 4-13. And it kills me. As a Baker guy, it kills me, Tim. But even with the weapons, I think this is a golden opportunity for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to fire sale at the trade deadline. If they're 1-6, 2-5, way out of the playoff picture by the trade deadline, you got Mike Evans, you got Tristan Wirfs, you have Chris Godwin, you have Cade Otton, you have a plethora of defensive players. I'm sure Levante David would get some interest as a veteran leader on defense. You could walk away from the trade deadline with multiple first-round picks and turn yourself around in 2 years. It's crazy to see how the Rams and the Buccaneers have won the Super Bowl within the last 3 years, and they had to basically sell their souls to the devil to win the Super Bowl, because that's what it seems like. I mean, the Bucs, it just really comes down to quarterback play for me, Tim. I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, Baker Mayfield, sure, they both looked great in the preseason. We all know that we don't put much stock into that. So if Baker flops, then you're looking at Kyle Trask. It's a 4-win team.
Yeah, no doubt. This division's very, very tricky. It's a horrible, putrid division. It's got to be the Saints. It has to be the Saints. Dennis Allen, though, seems like an incompetent coach. For everything that you said about Brandon Staley, take over to Dennis Allen, and you could say the exact same things about that guy. But ultimately, you brought in Derek Carr. You got Chris Olave there. Michael Thomas, if he can bounce back at all, you have a pretty competent offense right there. Alvin Kamara's only getting a 3-game suspension. He'll be playing. You got Jamal Williams there as well. Defense lost a couple of pieces, but it's the Saints division to lose, no doubt.
Absolutely.
And then the Falcons, second place for sure. Carolina Panthers remind me a lot of the Texans on the other side of things, solely because they don't have their first-round picks. They don't have it. So they're going to be trying to win games at the end of the year. So maybe they could finish third in their division, and then wrapping it up, definitely Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, it's just it's bad. It's bad. It's a bad division, and it was bad last year too. So there's really not much reason to believe that it's going to be much better. But I do want to talk about the NFC West, because this is a division that is like a tale of 2 cities, I want to call it. Between, you got, the Rolls Royce and the Bentley, to be quite honest with you, in San Francisco and Seattle, and then you have the Rams and the Cardinals. And I'll just lay it out. I have the 49ers tentatively as the division winners at 11-6. The Seattle Seahawks 10-7, but much improved. This is a team that is primed for Super Bowl runs in the next 5 years. Like, the young defense, the young offense. You got a great veteran in Tyler Lockett with young receivers as well. Geno Smith, I think, can get the job done. We're talking about a guy, Geno Smith. Tim, I'm going to say this right now, and this is going to sound crazy, but statistically, Geno Smith was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL last year. Did you ever think that sentence would ever be muttered out of someone's mouth?
No, and statistically, he had a better season last year than Russ ever did in Seattle.
Which is crazy, which is insane. And I love this team. I really do. And I think it's so funny that you're looking at one of the youngest teams in the NFL, led by the oldest coach in the NFL. And I think it's great, because Pete Carroll is one of those guys that's like 72 years old, but is like a 27-year-old man at heart. And I mean, you've seen the clips of him playing quarterback, running up and down the field. Like, you're looking at guys that are half his age that are coaches in the NFL that probably couldn't even do that. And Pete Carroll's doing it, slapping his gum against his lips, just playing quarterback and having a good time. And I think that is the perfect veteran leadership for this young team. He's going to guide them to places that we wouldn't think that this Seattle Seahawks team would go without Russell Wilson. I really think that maybe not this year. They still have a lot of draft capital and a lot of money next year to really put that foot forward to start competing with the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles of the NFC we are supposed to be here. We are supposed to be this strong because, I mean, on paper, defensively, fantastic. Offensively, awesome. All young players sprinkled in with some veteran leadership. And unfortunately, I don't have them winning the division because San Fran just has the easiest, most perfect quarterback system in the NFL has ever seen, apparently. And they still have a great defense. They did lose a couple pieces. They added Javon Hargrave to that amazing defensive line. Yeah, Pete Carroll's an absolute legend. You're 100% right, Courtney. But I think this team still scratches out 11 wins and wins the division. I don't know how far they go in the playoffs, though. Just me. I think losing DeMeco Ryans is going to shoot this defense down a little bit, just a little bit. And then we don't have to go into it. I have the LA Rams. Actually, we might have to go into this. I have the LA Rams at 7-10. I think that with a healthy team, their roster isn't great, but don't forget, you still have Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. Those are guys that single-handedly could win you football games. So I think that they're going to be a little bit better. They killed the draft, by the way. They absolutely killed the draft. With no first-round pick, they killed the draft. I thought that was unbelievable what they did, what they were able to accomplish. Their offensive line is taking shape. I don't think Matthew Stafford's going to get murked like he was getting last year. I think that they're going to protect him a little bit better. I'm thinking 7-10, maybe 8-9. Let's see how the defense develops. And then we have the 2-15 Arizona Cardinals.
2-15. What?
Generous 2-15.
So what do you do if you're 2-15? You take Caleb Williams there, or what are you doing?
So I've laid this out. I actually laid it out on the ASN podcast this past week. I'll say it again in a more condensed way because, Tim, I get down some rabbit holes sometimes. You might not want to see it, but
I wouldn't mind it.
I get down the rabbit hole of this is what I'm doing. I'm looking ahead saying the Cardinals are probably going to have the first pick and at worst the 7th pick with the Houston Texans first round pick. So best case scenario, you get 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. So I'm staying at 1. I'm drafting Caleb Williams. I'm taking much less for Kyler Murray to dump 65 to 75% of that salary. If I can get a team to pay 75% of that salary, give me a 4th round pick for Kyler Murray.
Oh, wow.
It's too much. Tim, the contract breakdown is disgusting. It gets worse and worse as the years go on. And if the Cardinals don't find a solution fast, we could see them trading out of the first pick purely because of money. And that's not something that you ever want to see. Yeah, sure, they'll get a great plethora of picks and maybe even a player out of it, but I'm resetting myself as the Arizona Cardinals because it is just I don't want to curse. We talked about this before. It's a dog shit roster, Tim. It's a dog shit roster with a bad head coach. I don't think Jonathan Gannon inspires anyone to play good football. I mean, let's be real. Zoom. I don't think he inspires anyone to play good football. We could be looking at a one and done head coach and a number 1 and number 2 overall pick. I mean, it's a disaster. It's a dumpster fire. I think even with Kyler Murray coming back, there's not enough around him offensively or defensively to even have him win a couple games. Like it's just bad. Like who knows? They could surprise us. They could win 4. We never know. But I think 2 is like the absolute worst case scenario. And just to be a little controversial, I'll go with the worst case scenario for 2 and 15.
Which is fair, man. If you put Caleb Williams with Marvin Harrison Jr., oh my gosh, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the end game that you're looking for right there.
Right. Like the best wide receiver prospect we've seen in years with the best quarterback prospect since Tila. I mean, come on, man.
I would say that.
What up, G? Can't wait for the director's cut tonight, right after us, right here on Tuesday Night Tailgate. But For me, it's San Francisco all day.
Yeah.
Seattle, I know what you were saying. I get what you were saying with them. I still have them as a wild card team, but I don't have them. I think they're maybe go like 9-8, maybe 10-7 again. The NFC is just so bad, man. It is just so bad. But I do have them as my 6th seed in the NFC altogether. The Rams, I do see as being a much improved team. 8-9 is definitely not out of the question. 9-8 actually isn't out of the question.
Yeah.
Arizona's putrid. They are so very bad.
Oh.
But the 49ers, I think 13-4, 12-5, 14-3. I'm not like that team dirty, bro. I think that team is dirty. And I think Brock Purdy just
dirty Purdy.
Purdy. And I think it might be because my boy Streets, my Roto Slappers partner on Monday nights, might have gotten into my head on him. But I mean, the kid looks, and like you said, anyone could play quarterback in that offense, but that kid looked really good to end that year outside of the Eagles game. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see with that division, what they do. I really do think that Seattle surprises a lot of people, and I'm hoping they do. Love Pete Carroll, love what they're building over there. I want to save your division for last. So we're going to go over to the NFC East. This is pretty cut and dry for me. I mean, maybe one team could be, up for discussion, but I might have a surprise here. The Eagles, for me, win the division at 12-5 rather easily. The 5 losses come from the fact that they're playing, I believe, win percentage wise, it is based off of last year, maybe the second or third toughest schedule in the NFL. So, this is a great team, but you're going to be playing the Bengals, the Chiefs, you're going to be playing all these teams, the Bills, so the Jets, you're going to get some rough games in there. I think Dallas comes away with the 5th seed in the wild card at 11-6. There's no reason to believe why this team will be worse than last year. Defensively, I think adding Stephon Gilmore to play a number 2 cornerback role, game changer. Same thing, Mozzie Smith. You could argue whatever you want. He's a bust already. Crazy to say that about someone who's never taken an NFL snap. I think he's going to be great. He's exactly what they need in the middle of that defensive line. Offensively, they're basically as good as last year, maybe even better. And then I have the Giants missing the playoffs at 9-8. I think the Giants are going to sort of kind of come crashing down to earth, but in a way where the Giants fans and the Giants front office say, hey, we're here to stay. I mean, I've seen some people say that the Giants are going to go 5-12. I think that's crazy. No, 9-8, missing the playoffs to the point where you're like, okay, we missed the playoffs, but hey, we were 9-8. So we are a legitimately good team that's a couple players away from being a contender. And then I have the Commanders in last place at 6-11, only because of quarterback play. That roster is ready to win football games now. Top to bottom, really deep, really talented, just not at the quarterback position. Listen, I'm a little premature with this. I mean, I don't know what to expect from Sam Howell. He could turn around and be the next Tom Brady for all we know. But as of right now, on paper, the weakest positional group for the Washington Commanders is the quarterback group. And that is the most important position in football. So,
man, if they had a quarterback last year, they probably would have made the playoffs. And not probably, they would have made the playoffs. Yeah. Brian Dable is that dude. I don't know how anyone in New York could be out there saying that he's
as a Jet fan. Love Brian Dable.
Begged, prayed, pleaded for any god that would listen to me last year for the Bears to hire them or hire him. Obviously, he went as a package deal to the Giants. I digress. It is what it is. But for this division, for me, it's pretty cut and dry as well. It is the Eagles winning it. The Cowboys are the clear cut and dry 5th seed in the NFC. They are the 3rd best team in the NFC.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that I actually have the Cowboys having the 2nd best record, being a wild card team. It just kind of stinks how that works, but that's how it works, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, I got Niners, Eagles, Cowboys in that jersey. Yeah, but I digress. Giants, I do have finishing 3rd, not making the playoffs this year. It sucks. I love Brian Dable, but
I know I feel the same way, dude. And the energy. Listen, I don't know if you've ever been to New York. I live in New York. I could actually look outside this window right now and see the Empire State Building. I live very close to the city. There's just listen, when the Knicks, the Jets, and the Giants are all good, this is the happiest city on the planet. Like you have no idea. Like everyone expects the Rangers to be good. Everyone expects the Yankees, even though they're not good this year, to be good. The Mets or whatever, Islanders or whatever. When those three teams are good simultaneously, the crime level goes way down. Let me tell you, Tim. But yeah, I do think I do think that they miss the playoffs, but I think that they miss it to the point where it's like, okay, we will be ready to go next year. And then Tribal Chief, oh, what a killer picture that is with the lion. Amazing.
That's our leader, baby. That's our tribal chief.
Tribal
Let's
chief.
do it, tribal chief. Thanks
It's
for
an
tuning
honor.
in.
It's an honor. The Tribal Chief, man.
Thanks for being here, brother.
Now, Tim, we have saved the best for last. Well, at least I think, because you are a Bears fan. The NFC North. So right away, I'm just going to come out and say this. I don't know what the Minnesota Vikings did to deserve this massive downgrade that people are giving them. I do have it as a downgrade. We're not looking at a 13-4 roster. Let's put it that way. Last year, we weren't looking at a 13-4 roster. Kevin O'Connell came in.
That's what they did was win 9 games by less than 4 points, and that's what it is.
Exactly. 10-7 for me, I think, because for what they lost on the defensive side is what they gained on the offensive side. You're looking at Eagles, baby. Eagles fly, Eagles fly. You're looking at a potent offense. Like adding Jordan Addison to that is like, have you ever seen that meme where that chef is like going over the pot and then he throws like the ingredients in and the pot like explodes? Like that's what you're adding to the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go out and say it right now. I think Addison is that much of a difference maker for Minnesota, and I think that's why they win the division at 10-7. 9-8, I have the Detroit Lions. Everyone's favorite team in America for some reason is the Detroit Lions. I like the Lions. I think Dan Campbell's cool. Razor thin at the wide receiver position. Razor thin. And you're missing Jamison Williams to start the year as well. Razor thin at the position. You're relying on a lot of young guys to play a lot of big roles. I really like the tandem of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's going to be lightning in a bottle. But a 9-8 team. And they make the playoffs. I do have them as the seventh seed. I think they make the playoffs just to appease people and not. I mean, my YouTube channel probably would have gotten canceled if I didn't have the Detroit Lions in the playoffs. I mean, I would have had people waiting outside my house with pitchforks and torches on fire. Third place, I have the Chicago Bears, and I have the Chicago Bears at 7-10, and I think that's a massive improvement. I think we need to dial it back a little bit, Tim. I think that the hype on Justin Fields being an MVP candidate is completely egregious. I think Nick Bodkins is a man. He is the man, dude. He's the man. Really, really cool guy.
Great show, by the way.
I think it is a great show. It really is super underrated.
Dude,
he's
kills
awesome.
it.
He's awesome. We need to pump the brakes. Have they improved the roster? Sure. Ryan Poles has done a great job improving that roster. Defensively, you're a mess, Tim. You're a mess. Your defensive line is a mess. What can you do? What pressure are you going to produce with that defensive line? I think that's the catalyst for your demise this year. I really think that the offense will be good enough to the point where they could probably win 9 or 10 games, but your defense is just going to give you nothing in terms of pressure.
You know what? My biggest takeaway from this conversation just was that you have the Green Bay Packers finishing last in the division.
Yes.
So that's a massive win to me. That's a massive win to me.
6-11 with the opportunity to probably be like 12-5, like a lot of people say, because I really do think, I will say this. I think Jordan Love is the truth. I think that he is going to be as good as advertised. Here's my rebuttal to that is we saw, this is like shockingly similar, and it drives me crazy how the Packers recycle this cycle every single time. We saw a Hall of Fame quarterback leave and a young quarterback that was waiting for 3 years come in and show the immense talent that he possessed, but also went 6-10 that year. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. Aaron Rodgers' first year as a starter came with a lot of growing pains, came with a lot of wow factors. And this is a worse team that Jordan Love is inheriting than Aaron Rodgers did. So I think 6-11, way too many young weapons, way too many. You're looking at a roster that their longest tenured offensive weapon, besides for the running back position, is Josiah Diaguara, I'm pretty sure. But great, potentially great. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. You're looking at a really nice roster. I'm so mad that they cut Grant Dubois, by the way. I mean, that is like a great speedster that I thought would have added another level to their offense, but they did cut him, unfortunately, today. Just a lot of question marks, a lot of what ifs. Well, if these rookies play well, then they'll win. If Jordan Love turns out to be what he can be, they'll do well. If the offensive line can stay healthy, if the defensive line could, maintain and sustain pressure, there's a lot of ifs and not too many answers. And yes, unpopular opinion, I'll end on this. The Green Bay Packers finished last in the NFC North.
Crazy to hear that. Because listen, I too have them finishing last in the NFC North, but not because I think they're going to suck or anything, because I don't.
I don't think they're going to suck. I just think they're going to lose a lot of games.
Right. And I think Jordan Love is going to be a solid NFL quarterback.
Yes.
A productive NFL quarterback. And if you look what Aaron Rodgers did over the last couple of years, granted, he won a couple of MVPs in the last 3 seasons, but like he's not chugging the ball downfield. He's just dumping to running backs, quick slant routes. And I think Jordan Love's going to do much of the same. I do like Christian Watson. I like Romeo Doubs there. I like the rookie Jaden Reed that they brought in.
Yeah,
All the
very nice.
2 running back system with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Plus, I want to see. We will actually get to see what Matt LaFleur is now, because he's had Aaron Rodgers. So let's see what Matt LaFleur is, what kind of a coach he actually is. But they still finished last place. This division is so hard for me. Yep. And when I mean last place, I mean I see teams going 10-7, 9-8, 8-9, 8-9.
Yeah, just a game separating everyone. It's gonna be cluttered together. I agree 100%.
Like 3-3 for each team in the division on their divisional records. However, I feel you with everything that you said about Minnesota. Like I don't get the fall off either, but they weren't winning games. They weren't blowing teams out, and they looked really bad in that playoff game against the Giants. That could have a carryover effect into this year. Kevin O'Connell, new coach last year, which is always what I say, new coach syndrome. So maybe that new coach syndrome goes away into this year. You know who doesn't have new coach syndrome? The Detroit Lions and Meet Campbell. And I understand everything you said. They were atrocious on defense last year. Their offense, I mean, it wasn't that great. I mean, they played from behind a lot. So you could chuck when you play from behind a lot.
Exactly. But
when everyone in the locker room wants to run through a wall for you, wants to headbutt a locker for you, they sold out their stadium, their Ford Field, for the first time ever on season passes this year.
That is insane, by the way.
Insane. Season tickets sold out for the first time ever. Detroit wins that division. All right. And then we have the last wild card spot. We have the 7th wild card spot. And as much as I would love, all the meat in me would love to take the Chicago Bears, I will take the Minnesota Vikings to wrap it. 3 months ago, I would have taken the Bears. 2 months ago, I would have taken the Bears. Maybe, but you know what? It's so horrible because I never let preseason indicate anything how I feel about the regular season. But this past preseason game was very ugly for me, and it wasn't because of the defense. Listen, I love Justin Fields. I put it on for you tonight, baby. He's my quarterback, and you know I've hyped this man maybe more than anybody out there, okay? But what do all the pundits say? What do all the people say? What do you guys say? His arm angles, he throws too hard. Yo, watching that game on Saturday was really starting to turn my stomach a little bit. Like his arm angles were really bad again. His release points were off again. He is whipping the ball at receiver 7 yards down the field. And I'm just like, kid, and you got the offensive line, who I thought was going to be a much improved offensive line this year. Braxton Jones was a PFF top 10 offensive tackle last year. You moved over the Mauler, Tevin Jenkins, from the right to the left. You went Cody Whitehair from the left to center. You brought in Nate Davis for $30 million to play right guard. First round pick on Darnell Wright to play right tackle. But if these guys can't stay healthy, which we had to start 3 out of 5 backup offensive lineman. What does that mean? And if Fields' arm's bad, it doesn't matter if I think our wide receiver room is way improved, which I do.
It could go south real quick, Tim.
Right. And our tight end room is one of the best in football, I think. I love our running back room. And contrary to what you said, I actually think our defense might be a lot better. We brought in DeMarcus Walker, who had more sacks than anyone on our team last year. We brought in Andrew Billings, Justin Jones, Yannick Ngakoue, who had 10 sacks last year. Between Walker and Ngakoue, we added 17 sacks to the defensive line. Our leading sack producer last year was a safety with 4. I mean, that's improved, baby. CJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, we paid the same amount of money we would have paid to Roquan Smith. Love bringing those guys in. Yeah. And then I love our secondary. Jalen Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, Eddie Jackson, Kyler Gordon, and we brought in rookie Tyreek Stevenson. So if we can get any semblance of pass rush, and you know how we get that? You make the trade for Chris Jones now. You trade our pick now, next year's first-round pick. You bring in Chris Jones. You max him out. We got more money than anybody still sitting there. You pay Chris Jones right now. He becomes the anchor of that defensive line, and then maybe we get that wild card spot. But unfortunately, I cannot go homer and pick the Bears as much as I like to. But I think a much improved 8-9, maybe a 9-8 season, but like the Lions and Vikings are 9-8, and they got tiebreakers. Like the division's going to be that close this year.
Tim, I'm not even going to lie. I can't say anything. That was the perfect way to kind of just rant this first episode of Tuesday Night Tailgate to a close. That was unbelievable. And we'll see what you're talking about. I hope, listen, for your sake, I hope you're right. But for my sake, because I talked a lot of crap on Twitter, I hope you're wrong. But but anyway, I mean, Tim, first off, I want to thank you so much for being the first inaugural guest of the Tuesday Night Tailgate. It only seemed right that you yourself would be the first guest. This was an amazing first hour. I really can't thank you enough for being on. I can't thank everyone enough. The Bloodline Entertainment Network, please subscribe to the channel and please. I mean, these guys work incredibly hard and do not get the recognition that they deserve. And I hope that I can only come on here and help that right there and just kind of give you guys the recognition you all deserve. You guys do an amazing job. I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Tuesday Night Tailgate, the tailgate after the tailgate.
Love it. Yo, my friend, this was an absolutely amazing first hour of Tuesday Night Tailgate. I just want to thank you so much for getting to be your inaugural guest, dude. It means so much to me, dude. And you can find Tuesday Night Tailgate live right here every Tuesday night, 7 Central. Pete will be bringing on guests to be doing his thing. And as always, you can find Peter and everything he does at the Mock Draft Guy YouTube channel and on BloodlineNetwork.com. As every video my dude drops is on BloodlineNetwork.com. Brother, appreciate you. Can't wait to hear what you got going on next week. But until then, we out.
About how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.